Hello everyone, my name is Manoj Agrawal. I'm the group editor at Banking Frontiers magazine, and I welcome you all to this panel discussion, Accelerating Digital Transformation. To begin with, we will start with introductions. My name, as I said, Manoj Agrawal. I'm the group editor and founder of Banking Frontiers magazine. Apart from publishing, we do a large number of seminars, conferences, and roundtables. This being one such event. We also do awards. So that is my brief introduction. I'd request each of you to briefly introduce yourself.
Thanks, Manoj. Thanks for the introduction. Welcome. I'm happy to be part of this Bank Frontiers session. I'm Jidesh PV, Head of Digital Bank, Federal Bank. And I'm spearheading digital transformation and innovation. Plus, I am taking care of all the non-branch channels. So I also welcome all the fellow panelists and all the audience viewers into this particular session on digital transformation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shalu Kaushik. I take care of the digital part of the business for Tata Capital. Great to be part of this session. Looking forward for some interesting conversation with the fellow panelists and for an exciting time. Thank you.
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Deepak Raju. I work with RBL Bank as an IT head. RBL Bank is one of the fastest growing mid-sized bank in the country. Happy to be part of this panel and share, learnings and views.
Baiju Joseph, CTO, Future Generali. And thank you, Manoj and Babu, for inviting me to this great platform. And wonderful to have all of you, today here, interact and learn from all of you while I'm sharing my own, whatever I learned during this time. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. This is Shubhrato from OutSystem. I lead OutSystem in India. Just a small introduction about OutSystem. We are number one MXDP platform, which is multi-experience application development platform. And we started our business in India around from last 1 year. And the objective is basically what we are looking at is driving the build of modern application in the BFSI or various verticals of India, okay? Various verticals within the industry part. So that's about me and about my company.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Ashok Suvarna. I'm the Chief Distribution Officer at Aditya Birla Sun Life Insurance. Aditya Birla Sun Life Insurance is part of the Aditya Birla Group. In fact, it is now a part of Aditya Birla Capital, which is our holding company. As an organization, we offer products which, whether it is the traditional life insurance products like traditional money back policies, endowment product to term plans as well as ULIP plans. But we are also a significant player in the group business in the country.
Okay.
So we have a presence across 400 odd cities in the country today, and we service all straight off customers as we speak.
So friends, let's begin then. My first question is this. It's more like trying to find something different. So we have seen hundreds of examples in all kinds of discussions and publications about digital transformation and how it is improving customer experience. If you have come across any example or incident that is something different from the normal, then I'd like to invite you to share to help us get a better flavor of the whole thing. Does anyone have some incident or customer experience?
Yeah. So Manoj, you're talking about how digital transformation is moving. Is that right?
Some kind of digital transformation enabled customer experience that is different from the normal. Because, the whole thing is about now creating to each and every customer as a unique customer. So some of you are going and working on that. Maybe you have figured out something interesting.
Yeah. So if I may start on this. So obviously, I would say saying is a difficult thing. There are multiple, and it could be very subjective transformation experiences, which from my experience I can talk about. Obviously, let me take most recent pandemic situation. Where when the pandemic started, obviously customers during the lockdown were not able to approach the branches from a servicing perspective. So it was a great opportunity for the financial sector, I would say, to overturn the way we were servicing. Of course, most of us, I would say, in the financial sector have transformed the way we service our customers digitally. Large part may have moved, or it was in process of moving to digital platforms, but for sure during the pandemic we saw definite upsurge in the services being done digitally. So most in and around, I would say we saw a lot of new things coming up. I'll just talk about few examples from my personal experiences.
Okay.
Servicing through social media platforms, through chatbot platforms. For example, today we can service our loans customer instantly on the WhatsApp. Payments and all that is not new to these platforms, but servicing loan was a new concept. Servicing through Amazon Alexa, Google Assist, which I may say so is more of a chatbot, new age technology, which people are embracing. Servicing through that kind of thing was not heard of. And even if you launch, we were not very sure whether the customers are ready to adopt that. But during this time, these kind of services really turned out to be a very great blessings for both the organization as well as the customers. Not only this is on the service side, even on the acquisition side, all the tools or all the kind of acquisition led initiatives which various organizations had put it in place saw an upsurge immediately, where you are doing a contactless sourcing, meaning a customer is given a eKYC or a OKYC or a video KYC kind of tools, was really welcomed by open arms, not only by the financial sector but by the customers also, because they were ready to embrace that and take up the new kind of things which were there. And today I would say that has become a way of life for most of us. Now we don't think, despite things now coming back to somewhat normal, we don't think of going to branches. We end up thinking, can we do this from digital platforms? So in many sense, I would say, not only in service, but from sourcing, even in the collection side, a lot of payments started coming digitally. From a whole life cycle perspective, I would say a lot of things have come up. That's my take on it.
Thank you, Shalu, for that overview with specific points. And would you like to share one or two examples of something different kind of digital transformation, a different kind of customer experience which results from digital transformation? Have you come across something like this?
I was listening to Shalu. I think she kind of covered the entire life cycle management. As you know, I come from an industry which has not been seen as one of those prominent players in the financial services space in terms of adoption of digital platform and digital tools. Our business is all about around relationship selling, and our sellers are more used to face-to-face selling rather than digital selling. And here is also a business where people have to be influenced to make long-term commitments when they buy a life insurance product. And many of the products are not as simple to understand like a fixed deposit of a bank. I have an industry colleague in Baiju listening to this, and I'm sure he can add on to what I'm saying. So it was it was a tough time, and I think what hit us was nobody was aware. So it was not just from a customer perspective, but more importantly, our intermediaries, our agents, our partners are extremely important in taking our products and solutions to our customers. And when in a business which is so much used to face-to-face selling, we had a very different challenge, and that's where we had to transform ourselves. So we had two challenges. One is, of course, offering of tools, and that was, I think, I will not say it is easier, but that was simpler in terms of offering of tools. But it's also the transformation journey in terms of the mindset shift and the skill set shift of the people who are going to be using these tools and converting them into a value proposition, but for both the seller as well as for the customer. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I will say, and I will echo what Shalu mentioned, customers were asking for digital tools. They wanted to look at insurance products, and a lot of people think even today, one industry which would have got really, really benefited from this whole pandemic is the insurance industry. Being a part of the industry, we haven't seen queues of people outside our offices yet. We would love to see that happening, but definitely it has increased awareness for insurance cover. And we had people who were reaching out to us in some form and shape, and that's where we were required to provide some tools. So I'll give you one example or one area where we invested significantly in terms of transforming that process. So in the insurance industry, there is a process before we issue any policy we kind of validate whether the customer has understood the features of the product and whether the customer is aware of how many years he or she is committing the payment. And this process was typically a phone-based verification process. And as you know, this pandemic also impacted contact centers. A lot of contact centers were not able to operate. So we rolled out a web-based, video-based platform where we sent links to customers to connect with us and give that confirmation online. We were working on it, but we had not accelerated the rollout. But during this phase, we saw that is a great opportunity for us. And we saw people adopting it, not only the sellers, but also the customers adopting it and creating so that the policy issuance process was not getting impaired because this verification process was not happening. A, because of contact centers not being there, B, calls not going through. So we kind of digitized this entire process, and I'm happy to say that almost close to 60% of our today business, this verification process happens through the digital channel. So I just wanted to quote one example.
Fantastic. That's true. And that example you have given actually has made a huge difference, because onboarding is the first step towards providing a lot of services. And with this whole e-commerce boom, there's so much e-commerce happening. Anyone who's not part of the official financial system can't really take part in online services of various kinds. If I may ask our other insurance person in this discussion, Baiju, to add his perspective.
I will try and you see
digital transformation.
Sure. So from me, I mean, what difference it made during this is very clearly the CX, the customer experience part. Okay, very clearly about how do you emphasize on customer experience during everything you do. When I say customer experience is how do you simplify what you do with them, okay, to make it in clicks or probably time taken to do the transactions become a predominantly higher. And from employee perspective, how do we just shifted everyone during the pandemic to home assist, right? And then we somehow enabled them. But how do that experience of work from home you need to improve and change and make the productivity much higher than what exactly you normally expect them to do. And while all doing this, what we ensured is, or we had to do the automation, because without automation, that wouldn't have been possible at all for anyone. What I've seen, other thing which is completely different from digital transformation here is emergence of, ecosystem, because I can't be alone doing all transformation. I need to be connected with my partner ecosystem, cloud ecosystems, be standard enough. So I might have, when I was on-prem, I might have my own standards and way of doing the processes. Now I'm completely cloud and completely, digitally, enabling work from home. So I have to become a standard, but yet leverage the ecosystems of the industry as well as, standards regulators provide, or even any other payment services provide. So, and design, design become a predominantly very important aspect into the baking of, the CX. So if you are not designed properly, you're, on the processes, whichever you try and automate and simplify, that's become, a problem. So simplifications, state of the art, design thinking, CX, connected ecosystem. Without that, I don't think any transformation is going to take place. As far as possible, we found standards and connected ecosystems coming on big play.
Very, very key points that you have raised, Baiju. Thank you very much. If I may ask the bankers, I guess your kind of digital transformation journey would have been a little different in the sense your customers interact with you much more frequently than would insurance customers. Was there something different in your approach to digital transformation? What were the key bottlenecks in your digital transformation? The bankers, please.
Yeah, so
how did you identify those bottlenecks? Quickly.
Okay, so this is something that is a big criticism for banks, right? Because we are tied to what's called as a core banking system, and which is a big legacy for banks, and often is a constraint because we can't innovate on the core, and core is really the nerve center where all
Mhm.
the GL processing, etc., happens. The innovation in banks all have always happened on the edge. You know, the mobile banks, in internet banks, chatbots, conversational bots, ATMs, kiosks, and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
But the criticism is actually paid to rest once and for all. And I'm actually speaking, for the oracles and the Finnacles of the world, where they have now started to basically unravel this monolith architecture into small microservices based architecture.
Okay.
Today, the core banking systems have become restful, which is what the whole World Wide Web is on restful architecture. It's just that
Mhm.
we tend to build non-restful APIs on a restful architecture and create suboptimal systems. But that's a very important theme that these large companies have started taking and chipping away by building by breaking the monolith, Manoj, and building what's called as microservices based architecture, which actually enables banks to pull the core banking all the way up to the periphery, up to the edge where the customers are interacting, and be able to build very digitally savvy technologies using best in class web frameworks that the startups are getting to use today.
Okay, that's great. So you identified core banking as the key bottleneck, which is now being overcome. If I may ask Jitesh, any other major bottleneck that has been perceived, and what is the approach to overcoming that?
Yeah, so basically, as Deepak has already pointed out, legacy systems will be there. There will be many systems which are based on built on ad hoc requirements or immediate requirements. So
Mhm.
some of the systems may be supporting multiple platforms as well. For example, if I want to change a pipe, that pipe is catering to other 10 different systems. So the challenge would be to actually see if I need an upgrade, it requires change in multiple people. There are many people involved in this particular change. So that is one aspect. Number two, skilling of people. See, when new technology is coming in, artificial intelligence, or Shali was talking about AI and other technologies. Maybe today people are talking about. We have actually done some work on blockchain as well. We launched a blockchain-based platform for cross-border remittance. But
Okay.
the point is how we skill the people. Maybe we have to have better skilled people in the system. People should understand that. Okay, see, blockchain is something people only realize about cryptocurrency, but which is actually not liked by many, or it is still there are a lot of darkness about cryptocurrency. So blockchain is something which is supporting cryptocurrency. So the use case of blockchain, making people understand, getting the buy, or making people believe. So a lot of things, a lot of stakeholders are involved, skilling people, getting the sufficient resources from various locations to find who can work on this. Similarly, AI, blockchain, and any technology, identifying the right solution, right vendor, right partner. These are all some of the critical things. In-house, of course, ad hocism. Maybe if there are an ad hoc system created without looking at the futuristic applications or requirements, then naturally this can be a bigger bottleneck. So whenever we are doing a system, we have to be futuristic. At least 5 years down the line, we have to think about this and think that, okay, see, this system should cater to. For example, if I want to give a push notification to an application, and if that application is not built to receive notification, then entire architecture has to be revamped. So business will have so many requirements. Okay, they want, because market is going in a very fast-paced manner. A lot of innovations are happening. So these are some of the bottlenecks I see. The futuristic, we have to be very futuristic about what we are building, and skilling legacy systems. All those things will be there. But I think we have digitally transformed our API bank gateway, as Deepak was telling. See, we have created a 300 plus API hosting API banking gateway, which caters to almost 100 plus partners today. Basically, because almost all the service providers have actually come up with microservices which are now supporting our various initiatives. So we recently launched a credit card platform. In April, we launched a credit card, which is a 3-click credit card application. So it is fully digital, end-to-end digital. The moment you apply, you get the card and you open a mobile banking, and you can see your card, and you can enable the card and you can start transacting e-com. So the transformation is possible only because the ecosystems are actually slowly understanding the need, and they are coming up with all the supporting innovations.
That's interesting. You covered a variety of different points. where the opportunities arise are there. If I come to Subroto and inquire as to, you're obviously talking to so many number of financial organizations. Are you seeing what kind of legacy applications do you see are bottlenecks? What kind of transformation projects are bottlenecks? Are the bottlenecks because of people or technology or some other underlying issue? Can you give us some flavor of the whole thing?
Yeah, thanks, Manoj. Yeah, so based on our interaction with a couple of CIOs and a couple of organizations, especially into the BFSI, what we see that there are issues around multiple areas. One is what I can see is as Shalu mentioned about the customer experience. Okay, so organizations are looking at a true omni-channel perspective. So when we look at true omni-channel, even if we have a customer, even if we give a customer a chatbot to interact, or a mail to interact, or a WhatsApp to interact, or a voice to interact, at the back of the organization, it needs to consolidate together, because I need to know that if the same customer is coming from multiple sources, and how I can able to consolidate that and look at that particular request. So it is important that you need to have system which can consolidate this entire digital omni-channel perspective in terms of interacting plus the voice together, and make it one single system. And that's what we have experienced with talking to multiple CIOs, and that's what we are trying to help many organizations on those lines. That's one. Second part, what I have experienced is legacy modernization. Okay, and as Jitesh said, that core banking is just to put some humor on this, core banking is a 1 BHK, and we have built the entire township on the top of that 1 BHK actually, right? So what we have experienced in our discussion is so they don't want to touch their system of record. They want to make sure that that system of record should be get intact, but at the same time, if they try to drive any future development on that system of record, it is going to take a huge amount of time, energy, money. At the same time, it impacts their business it impacts their time to value and time to market, basically. So what we are trying to do is basically creating as a true aggregator layer, as an out system to connect, to create a microservices architecture on the fly, and connect to all the system of record, to give a multiple system of experiences, either from a B2C, B2B, B2E. And this is where we have been engaged with a lot of BFSI organization and insurance organization. And that's where they are trying to drive their legacy modernization much more faster. So the point out over here is how fast I can able to drive this transformation. 1 month, 2 months, and that's the time frame that we are talking about, that you can have these transformations within a couple of months, basically, rather than need to wait for all those things. So there are a couple of such perspective. I can go on and on, but I think we need to follow Maggie rule, as you said. So I'm just stopping my thought process out over here, and prefer to give more thoughts when we progress in the discussion. Thank you.
Okay. So I'd like to combine what 2-3 or a few people have said. That Subroto, what you have said was Deepak. So Deepak talked about the fortunate development that Oracle and Infosys and all these companies are modernizing the architectures of their so-called legacy solutions and making it more in tune with current times. And Subroto, you mentioned about your discussions with various CIOs about how they want more and more integration. And I think it was Ashok or Baiju who mentioned that there is a more integration happening outside the organization with all kinds of organizations, financial organizations, e-commerce organizations, XYZ organizations. So with all this integration happening internally and externally, when the modernized, so Deepak, in contrast to your example, if there are applications which are running in the organization, which the vendor is not upgrading at the speed at which you desire, and Subroto gave an example, it might be 1 to 4 months, then what is the solution? Can an organization wait for this kind of vendor, or what are the alternatives then? What are the practical alternatives when the acceleration, some other parts outside the organization is not happening? Anyone has experienced this and tried to solve it in real life?
See, in reality, Manoj, if I would just chip away at that question, see, you will have core IT and a bunch of suppliers who will provide core IT services.
Yes.
You will also have fast IT within the company, and then a bunch of suppliers supplying towards that. And all the innovation, competitive advantage, building for market share happens in the fast IT space. The core IT space, though, does not necessarily accelerate at the same pace. Like core banking is a great example. Core banking needs much more stability and not a lot of innovation. Whereas things on the edge, like a Mobank, for example, at RBL, we implemented agile squads to be able to release, core features once every 15 days, like what a Xiaomi does. That's a great example. How they could capture the market almost overnight. MI became a bestseller. How did they do that? Every Friday, no matter what happens, there is a global release of a new feature set or a bug that they want to cure. So that's something that people need to sort of adapt. Any mid-sized bank, small banks that wants to join the bandwagon of innovation, they must have core IT, fast IT. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult.
Okay. So how is it for NBFCs, insurance companies? Do you also have this inner core which has to be more stable and that outer edge which has to be more agile and flexible and in your control? Is that how it works?
Yeah, of course. But I'll just, of course, it has to work like that in today's time. But I'll go back to your actual question. Does this situation arise? I have a little different view. You don't end up changing the core parts so often unless and until it is a strategic shift, which is backed by a well thought through strategy. Otherwise, I see no reason this situation arising, because when we evaluate a partner, we evaluate on a various categories, be it product architecture, forward-looking, futuristic, time to market pricing, etc., etc. But there are not too many instances where we end up seeing on fundamental grounds. But yes, as my colleague just mentioned, that there are situations that in the current evolving times, you see your partner currently is not able to offer you new features which are new age solution at the pace or the quality which you want. At that point of time, you may end up taking a decision that you will end up adding another additional feature or a layer to what is available in the market or what your business demands. But in my mind, that is to do with additional enhancement which you are doing, and which not only sweetens the product suite, it also takes the adoption of that particular platform to a higher level, because probably that's the demand of the time. That's what I say.
And how is it for the insurance sector? Similar or something different, a new flavor?
Probably I want to say something different here, because today this would be fine, core versus digital.
Okay.
But I mean, my view is that in 5 years time you won't find people to maintain this core, because I mean, who's producing these talents? There is no one is producing. None of the colleges are producing these talents, and all legacy business technology experts are retiring and in row actually, and leaving a dangerous vacuum of having a vacuum of technological knowledge to maintain that. I'm calling about mainframes. Okay. So, and all this BFSI who's actually holding on to those core technology is going to face that heat sooner or later, or pay ransom, pay too much money and maintain that. It is sooner or later, whether it is core technology or this technology, there could be only agile technology teams going to have it. It is given. So do we make changes today or tomorrow? That's only a call which every organization need to take it.
So technology agility is, you're saying, in one word.
Yeah, both has to come together. I mean, without that, nothing happens. And there's core versus digital will diminish in maximum in 5 years.
Oh,
There cannot be. There can't be at all.
So everything is core or everything is edgy, whatever.
And everything has to be digital and agile. That's all. I'm just saying core is, we will not say core after 5 years. There is nothing like core tomorrow.
Okay, very interesting. Ashok, any other thought?
No, I echo what Baijush said. I think it's the same thing. How do you, and there's a very interesting analogy which Subrata mentioned about 1 BHK and you trying to build a township around it. I think that's been for all legacy organizations and large organizations, that's been the strategy, right? You look at the core and start thinking that the core can take care of everything. But I also see that over a period of time, I think people have realized that, beyond a point, you can't push the core and test its own tolerance or patience. So clearly the ESB layers have started coming and playing a very important role. And then you say that, the whole front end experience is managed by a layer which is very different, and the core actually becomes a system of records. So you disengage, or de-link the whole experience part of it with the processing part of it.
Okay.
And that's the trend. And, that's what brings in the level of agility that is required, because the core has its own frameworks, has its own rules. And that rules is what we need to end up following. But if you are to follow that, then this whole speed to deliver reduces significantly. So delinking is what we have seen, at least helping us a lot more in rolling out new features or services and enhancing the customer experience.
Okay, interesting. So taking forward the point that Baiju made, I'm curious, is people, your internal IT team people, going to be the bigger bottleneck 5 years from now? Or do you think it will be your IT partners who will be the bigger bottleneck? Which is the bigger pain, which is the smaller pain that you think will happen in 4 to 5 years?
This is a sad, I'll say, there will be 0 IT developers in-house or any infrastructure team in-house. Take me from 3 years. Not far away. Far away. Because technology is outpacing, the way it outpacing the cloud technology, the way it is transforming, our in-house team is not able to capture. How do I reskill? How do I keep on reskilling, educating? This is, it's my personal challenge, and I'm just, voicing it over here. It is not easy to reskill and make them to produce as fast as possible where others are, or maybe outside people who's a startup or a focused team can produce. So today we are in a hybrid environment. That means we have a digital, we have a core, or a Gartner call is that by model.
By model
By
IT.
model.
Yeah. So whatever we call, but tomorrow you can't be in that situation, and you have to be cloud native. Either you take time to transform that or not. That's all.
Interesting concept. And I just want to ask one more question here. Why do you think that in-house can't catch up, and what can others do better than in-house? Because this is a lot of things to introspect for all of us also. What do you think they do better?
Very simple. Your application currently, all of in the room knows, BFSI knows, over a period of time, we built legacy application, which business logic has built into the codes, right? It is not a portable business logic. What does core platform does? Core platform has all business logic within. What all we are trying to do today, I'm going to take it out, that business logic outer layer, and building my towers there, right? So what I need to do, what I'm doing anyway, all business logic outside, and building my digital layers in the microsites or micro APIs way. But why don't we get that as a mainstream than core being there? Because core has to be just a database for me. I'm looking core is nothing like the database which you save the store and record. That's it.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on this?
I feel going forward, today we are product companies using technology to deliver our services and solutions to customers. I think going forward, I see us becoming a tech company offering products and services to our customers. That is the transformation that I see it happening. More and more organizations will transform themselves to adopt new technology and develop and deliver the solutions and products to customers.
So you think organizations like yours will be able to attract, manage, and get the desired output internally? A lot of it.
Absolutely. I think it's we feel that there is no second way of doing it, rather than building the whole technology, because the whole world is getting digitized. And unless and until you build your own competency and capability, we believe that you may not be able to stay ahead of the competition, if I were to say that. And it's extremely important, because you can't just look at products which are available in the market. If you have to create your own USP, you need to have the competency and the capability to build it. And and what differentiators you can build, it's only through technology now. The days are gone that it is there on the paper. It's more about the customer experiencing it.
Jitesh, your
Yeah, I
viewpoint.
think I also agree with one point of Ashok, is that delinking the core is very important, basically, because core bank is only a transaction recording platform. That is a very important point. I think that is very valid. Number two, as a bank, unlike others, maybe Deepak also will agree. Today banking is given as a service. Banking as a service is something which is happening there. So all of us are actually exposing our platforms to external world to innovate. So neobanks are coming in, or payment platforms, lending platforms. So a lot of customer experience based or customer service level innovations are happening with the help of startups or fintechs. At the same time, the core team has to actually service this particular set of users, because our APIs has to be hosted. So we do our in-house team. We have a large number of in-house team members who actually support the entire ecosystem. So as Mr. Baiju Joseph was telling, basically it's a development per se from the a product development from in-house may not happen probably for a customer facing product or something like that, because mainly this will be based on partnerships. At the same time, to service the entire ecosystem, we need to have people who are skilled. For example, today 10,000 calls are coming into an API gateway at this particular point of time. Somebody in the team should be capable and to understand and find out, okay, what is happening there, how the queue has to be, how we have to manage the queue, how the transaction should happen. Maybe in 5 years' time, these partnerships will grow, and mainly hundreds of partners will come and do millions of transactions in a minute. So we have to scale up the internal systems, and we have to support. So internally, the support definitely will, the internal system only, people only can support. So we need to build the capabilities there. We have to upskill the people. We have to recruit people. So we are seeing a lot of talents coming into banking as well, because today IT in banking people prefer, even while just before this particular session, I am actually a part of the interview panel also. So a lot of people, a lot of technology, BTech, AI, people who are having super specialties in AI, ML, all these people are interested to come into banking space because they feel that they can do a lot of things in this particular space. Okay. So talents are ready to come in, and we will have to co-create. Maybe there is a large number of people waiting outside to come and work with work with the bank, while we have to create the entire ecosystem within to support this particular partnership. That is what I feel that's happening in the banking environment.
Interesting. Subrata, having listened to all these different viewpoints, in your opinion, is there something that your kind of company does, that your company does, to make it exciting for people working in a bank or an insurance company or NBFC or a mutual fund, so that they can be more agile, they can be more up to date with technology, they can do more innovation? How do you see OutSystems empowering, all the kind of financial organizations here, the people, the decision makers, and the teams that actually deliver?
Yeah. So thanks, Manoj. Great question. But before I get down into your question, I actually Ashok mentioned a very important point that going further in next couple of years, and even Baiju also pointed that it is going to be a software-driven, or any organization is going to be a software-driven organization. Okay, and when you look at the Forbes list, you'll find last 10 years the people who are on the top has probably gone down, and the people who are in the down has probably gone up, and that's because of the companies who are driving their innovation on a software. It is very critical. It is either you do it internally or externally, it doesn't matter. The faster we understand that, the faster it is better for us. That is point number one. Now coming back to your point about how we can really help in terms of transformation. So whatever the if I look at the BFSI point of view, I can look at loan origination is the biggest blunder at this point of time, and challenge at this point of time, where every organization is thinking about, boss, how do I develop, and and there is no product, or a packaged product which basically suffices the need. And even if people are buying a packaged product, at the end of the day, you're doing so much of customization and all, it become a very unpackaged product point of view, right? It doesn't make sense. So even we are interacting with probably many customers into the BFSI in terms of changing their entire loan origination system, because the entire thing is about the core, and they want to build things from a cloud native point of view, as Biju, as Mr. Joseph talked about that. There are a lot of customers from the India's largest mortgage customer wants to drive the customer onboarding through us in terms of getting connected to their internal system of record. But at some point of time, they want to transform their internal system of record, which is a old software, to a new transformation part, which basically goes back to what Mr. Joseph is talking about. So the point what I'm trying to do is, and in every part, you can use OutSystem to drive that part, because when you look at low code, but low code is a very buzzword which has been given by Gartner, but that's not the right thing. The low code has got two sides. One is the citizen development, but at the end of the day, it is not the citizen who's going to develop application. It is the enterprise who's going to develop the application, right? And for that, you need to have a very matured enterprise grade multi-experience platform, and it needs to be a part of your enterprise architecture. Okay, and when it is there, it is a part of your enterprise architecture. Then you can decide that which are the applications that I need to take and transform that application on these kind of platform, which gives me the agility, which gives me the future proof that whatever in next 5 to 10 years down the line, I'm safe, I'm secure, and I'm future ready. That is point number one. So at the same time, this platform should also give me the ability to look at, suppose even if you're buying a package-based software, but at the same time, when you're trying to do any customization, don't do those customization on the package-based software, because again, you're making the package-based software a non-package-based software. Better you try to drive those customization into the front layer in OutSystem. Okay, so there are multiple ways and means, Manoj, we are trying to help the customer. And finally, it is at the end of the day, it is going to be, in next couple of years, it is all going to be a software driven business, not about internal or external and all. So either if you do it in internal, external, you need to think in a very innovative set of mind to drive your business part, basically. So that's the point.
Okay. Great. Do you see yourself taking major decisions? Okay. Irreversible decisions that you're committed to as an organization for 2 or 3 or 4 years, that you cannot backtrack. So you have to take that decision very consciously, very intelligently, very thoughtfully. So what kind of things do you want to take that big decision and stick to it as a business technology, combined business technology perspective? What kind of things you would rather prefer tweak it as I go along? Does this kind of thinking come? Does the board or the business ask you to take some big leaps in terms of decision making, commitments? You're getting, it's a very subjective what kind of question.
Okay, so I mean, I'll look at from insurers or my understanding perspective, whether it is all of us are manufacturing in the room, all of us are manufacturers of product. That means when I say manufacturer, we are constructing product, and we are good at it, and we must be good at it. The rest, everything, the customer journey, I don't think we can't govern. Whatever digitization you do, whatever journey you do, customer is going to decide from wherever they want to, whether they want to do in Amazon or they want to do it in Flipkart, or they could want to do neo banking or digital banking, wherever. But he will have a choice whether I want to do a product from which, whether Federal Bank or a Future Generali or RBL Bank, the product will be selected by customer, and sooner or later, customer will decide which product to buy. He may not know which is coming from Federal Bank or RBL or Future Generali or Birla. Okay, customer journey will be decided by customer, and somebody else may decide. So what we want products, we want API, we make it open architecture to anyone in the world to come and consume me. Take my product. I have beautiful products. You take it from me. I will not be owning the customer journey going forward. We are in a pocket. We are in a framework. It is just temporary, very temporary. Customer wants to be in there where they want to be. So what we own, we must own, and we make it better and better. And we
Okay.
must be proud about it. So this is my thought process. That's what I want to say. A different concept. Probably maybe or not be everyone is working, but that's the way it is going to be. That's my thoughts.
Thank you. So clear cut, focus on products, and products. That's where the long-term commitment will come for your kind of organization. Okay, that's great. Let's go to a banker, either Jitesh or Deepak.
See, basically, to answer to your question, core systems are long-term, so naturally, it's a very calculated decision. All stakeholders are involved, and whenever we see, for example, an API banking, open banking platform, when you are giving the platform is a long-term platform. So you cannot switch a platform all of a sudden if you are feeling that it is not working up to my expectation. I cannot change it all of a sudden. So because a lot of partners are already connected. So so core systems are more or less it's a long-term decision. So those decisions are taken after a lot of deliberations, all the discussion with the compliance, legal, risk, business. A lot of stakeholders involved. So these are all long-term decisions. We look at the next 10 years, where the bank want to be. Is it going to support the bank's future vision and all those things? So these are important decisions. So that is where the decisions cannot be taken overnight. These are all long-term decisions. While as Mr. Baiju also selling, some of the customer servicing or the customer is given, these are all peripheral systems. So these are all plug and play. Today, you can just some of the things. Okay, if it is not working today, it's an external system which is connected to the core or using a lot of API services. We just reintegrate with another partner. The experience is recreated in a different platform. So this can be happening over a period of 6 months to 12 months. We may be able to switch some customer experience platforms. So I personally feel that this is the way decision making on anything ad hoc is going to be very, very difficult. Maybe that is going to create a major roadblock in terms of digital transformation. While any transformation success cannot be so quick, you cannot change things in over a period of the blink of an eye. Digital transformation is going to happen. So it should be a well thought through process where you have to set your target on what you want to become in 2025 and build the blocks from now onwards, so that by 2025, whatever investment you have done in 2020 pays off.
Okay. Our other banker,
just let me just piggyback on what Jitesh says. I think bankers are risk managers, right? We don't want to take some crazy decisions and commit for 5 years, 10 years. That's definitely not the thinking. The thinking is to stay invested in the foundational blocks. We don't want to take too much of risks and change the ways of the game, but continue to innovate and continue to fail fast on all that is emerging. So today, if you were to start a bank or if you were to build a website today, you will the choice of technology that is there will be very different for a banker. I'd rather build a website on a React framework rather than PHP, HTML. I'd rather use a NoSQL database rather than buying an Oracle license, for example. I'd rather build an API on Node.js rather than investing in an enterprise service bus. So the choice of technologies today for banks are very, very different. And we also tend to start thinking like big tech companies and startups. The foundational blocks, like I said, risk managers, we're very, very risk averse. We'll continue to focus on the basics, but continue to innovate and fail fast on what's bleeding edge.
Okay, interesting.
And
Yes,
just adding to what Deepak said or other colleagues or Jitesh said, see, we all work in regulated entity environment. We are dealing with public money. So obviously, when it comes to the core banking, today I feel we continue to work with some systems which are trusted, proven, workable, able to take the volumes and various other things. When it comes to testing the front layers or the upper layers, we all are ready to take risk, and which we have taken, most of us have taken. When we have core evolving to that level, that agile, moving on the fast, as Baiju said, that digital and core will merge, when those kind of solutions are available in market in multiple ways, and which are good and easy to implement. I'm sure most of us would like to jump on it. But for that time period, I feel this will continue, is my sense, that core will continue to be core for some time, and rest all peripheral layers. We all continue to test, try, succeed, and fail, whatever is the thing. That's the way I see this.
Okay. So very similar opinions. Ashok, what would you say?
I think clearly for all businesses, it is how do we acquire more customers? How do we service customers better? And how do you do all of these things with a cheaper cost? So I think complementing the brick and mortar model with the whole digital way of doing business is what we definitely look forward to as we define our business strategy for the next few years going forward.
So Subrata, I will now come to you and ask you, how do you see technocrats like these, like people like these in the financial sector, taking better decisions as they go forward, so that they have the right mix of long-term and short-term, of fixed and variable, so that they get the best out of both kinds of decisions?
Yeah. So just being very practical and not talk anything very high level, it is all about for their customer experience or their employee experience, and what is something which is adding to the shareholder value. Okay, there are three things that is critical for any organization, right? So when you look at these three things, that's the most important part. What is your customer is in need? So I think after COVID, the kind of digitization that I have seen and talking to many customers, it is like a crazy kind of use cases that we have got from BFSI and all. Okay, and we have not even thought about also. Okay, it is like not good to have, it is must to have. So earlier, before COVID, it was good to have, and that become must to have, right? So I would always look at we need to look at things which is required for a better customer experience and better employee experience, which basically adds for the overall optimization of the organization, as well as reduce the cost and increase the profitability part. But it all goes back to the areas that you want to digitize, the areas you want to transform. It completely depend upon organization to organization, their priorities. But at the end of the day, it is all about customers. It is all about customers and employees. That's all I can say, actually.
Okay, great. So before we close, I'm just reminded that there was a recent RBI guideline or circular for cooperative banks saying that if you're outsourcing technology kind of things, please be careful that you don't outsource your capability to manage the system, to get what you want. Should not be overly dependent on a vendor. I think that's a topic for another kind of discussion, maybe in the future, as to what kind of regulatory principles will guide the ability for financial organizations to outsource certain things, to insource certain things, because you have to be responsible to the customer as well as to the regulator and any other major stakeholder. It's been a wonderful discussion. Thank you all very much for sharing in such a variety of thoughts. I hope each of you got something interesting out of this, and I look forward to being in touch with all of you in the days to come. Thank you all very much. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manoj.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Subrata.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Subrata. Thank you, Manoj.